It really is amazing how, while narcissists are all very different from each other, they're also very much alike. And sometimes it seems as if they're all reading from the same playbook. This is especially true when they're trying to lure us back into the relationship or trying to trick us somehow into re-engaging with them. This is commonly known as the Hoover, and in this video, I'm going to go over a list of very common phrases that narcissists use when they are trying to hoover us back into the relationship and what these phrases really mean. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. Many of us, when we are trying to end a relationship with a narcissist, or maybe after a narcissist has discarded us, will be unfortunate enough to have that narcissist come back at some point and try to lure us back into the relationship. It's important to understand that the reason they do this is to regain control of you. It has nothing to do with how they feel about you or how they feel about the relationship. Somebody that has made a habit out of abusing you does not miss you once you've gotten away from them. They miss the control that they had. They miss how powerful you used to make them feel. And all of these phrases that I'm going to go over are manipulation tactics. And I know firsthand that even if you're fully aware that the narcissist is just manipulating you, you can be in a very vulnerable state when they are hoovering you. And some of these tactics they use can still work even when you understand them and know what's going on. This is not easy, but my hopes for this video is to maybe make it a little bit easier for some of you that may be struggling once you understand what these phrases mean, and once you understand that I've heard these same things too, and they really don't mean what the narcissist hopes that you think they mean. So without further ado, the first phrase I want to go over is, "I need you now more than ever." This can be said by a narcissist that has maybe had substance abuse problems, or maybe other types of addictions, or maybe just had bad habits of some sort, maybe had a hard time holding a job, any kind of ongoing problem that made life really difficult for you or made life really difficult in the relationship. The narcissist now suddenly understands how important it is for him or her to do their part or to take care of these problems that they have in order to make the relationship work. But instead of taking responsibility, they put it on you and they say something like, "Well, I can't overcome this problem if you're going to abandon me now. I'm ready to change and I need your help. You're going to abandon me now that I need you more than ever?" And if you have been waiting for them for maybe years to finally understand how important it is for them to change their habits or address their problems, this can be really enticing. It can also be a really effective way to put a guilt trip on you. Finally, this person is finally taking it seriously. And if you just help them a little bit, that problem that you have been aching for them to do something about is finally going to get fixed. I promise you that if you were in a relationship with somebody that had some sort of chronic problem or habit that they absolutely seemed unable or unwilling to address, if leaving them or cutting them off is what's finally going to get through to them and what's finally going to make them change, they don't need your help in order to change. Anybody that is truly ready to change a really deep-seated emotional problem or addiction or something like that is ready to do it on their own. If they need your help in order to change, they absolutely are not going to change. Somebody that is serious about changing is going to do it with or without your help. And if they make it seem like they can't do it without you and you're somehow responsible now for helping them change, I promise you, you're going to get more of the same if you fall for this. Another phrase you might hear is something like, "This is so sad," or "So tragic. We used to have such a special thing together. It's too bad this had to end." this is going to be said by a narcissist that is trying to regain control of you if you are the one that has cut the relationship off. And it's really just a way of guilt tripping you. I've heard this myself, which is why I included it on the list. It was the last thing I heard from one particular person that I won't go into detail about, but I know that this was done in order to try to make me feel guilty or make me feel like I was giving up some really great thing with somebody that had tormented me for years. It is really sad when something that you poured so much of your time and emotional energy into doesn't work out and it ends. But that is no reason to go back to it. Something being sad and tragic or disappointing is not necessarily a sign that you need to keep trying to make it work. And this can lead into another common tactic that a narcissist will use, and that's to remind you of the good times, and maybe to remind you of special vacations you went on, or maybe your wedding day, or that day that you moved into your dream house, or whatever. I have actually been sent pages and pages of photographs from certain vacations and occasions that were meant to make me emotional and remember all the good times and somehow get me to want to go back to this horrible relationship because we had some great times together. This is, of course, the whole problem. I mean, some abusive relationships really are just pure hell all the time, but I think the vast majority of them are really great, maybe half the time, and pure hell maybe the other half of the time. So of course there's going to be good times. Of course there's going to be good memories. Of course there's going to be reasons that you stayed and put up with being treated like crap for so long. But that is no reason to go back to a terrible relationship. That's no reason to go back to somebody that makes a habit out of abusing you. It's okay to grieve the loss of a relationship that was really important to you. And it's okay to recognize that there were good times and good memories. Of course there were. That's why you were there. And it's okay to let the relationship as a whole go while maybe holding on to memories that still may seem really positive to you. Another very manipulative phrase a narcissist may use is something like, "We need to work together," or "Relationships take a lot of work," or "I need your help to make this relationship work." After you have tried so hard for who knows how long to make this relationship work, after you have begged and pleaded for this person to listen to you, or to take your needs seriously, or just to say something that makes sense once in a while, suddenly, once you give up on this relationship, now you're supposed to be working together with this person that was never willing to work with you, this person that insisted that everything was your fault, this person that blamed you for everything suddenly is putting you on a guilt trip for not working together with them. This is a way that a narcissist makes you feel like it's partially your responsibility to fix an abusive relationship. This is how a narcissist deflects blame for their choice to abuse you, by pretending that you are partially responsible for that. Because by insisting that you work together, or that you go to a couples therapist together, or that you work on your issues together, they're implying that you need to put in an effort as well, which sounds really good, right? Any healthy relationship does require effort from both parties. But in an abusive relationship, this just isn't the case. The abuse victim is not responsible for the abuser's choice to abuse, and there is nothing that an abuse victim can do to fix the reasons that an abuser is abusive. Working together just doesn't work. Somebody that is abusive has very deep emotional, personal problems that have nothing to do with the abuse victim. And trying to convince the victim that they somehow need to come back and rejoin them and work together on the abuser's emotional problems is manipulative, it's cruel, and it isn't going to work. It's just a way of deflecting blame. It's just a way of pretending that abuse is a relationship problem, and it's just not. Another common phrase you might hear is something like, I miss you, or I love you. This is pretty obvious, and it may come from a narcissist that maybe never said these things to you. Maybe was very stingy with the verbal affirmations that they gave you, or maybe not, but you're finally hearing things that maybe you always wanted to hear, or maybe you've been wondering if they miss you, and now you're hearing that they do, and maybe that feels really good. They're finally saying all the things that you've been waiting to hear, and that can be really hard to resist. It can be really easy to fool yourself into thinking that this person finally gets it, or you've finally gotten through to them, or maybe you leaving or cutting them off has finally made them realize how much you mean to them. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you leaving this person is what you had to do in order for them to finally understand how much you meant to them, that is not a healthy relationship. And if you go back to that person, they're going to forget how much you mean to them the minute you walk back in the door. Another phrase you might hear is something like, we belong together, or we were meant to be together. And this can really play into the illusion that some of us may have with narcissists, that we were brought together by fate, or we are somehow destined to be together, or we're twin flames, or star-crossed lovers, or whatever. Narcissists create a very intense drug-like euphoria in relationships with some people because of the intermittent good times and bad times, because of the trauma bonding. None of that is really love, but it can create some very, very powerful emotions that can make us feel as if we have some kind of special bond with this person, to the point where we might start fooling ourselves into thinking that there's almost some kind of supernatural reason that we're together. And narcissists, some of them are quite aware of this dynamic and will play into it when you try to leave them. I promise you that somebody that abuses you and treats you like you don't matter and doesn't listen to you is not someone that you have some kind of special connection with. It's somebody that you are trauma bonded to, and there is nothing that person is ever going to offer you that's going to make all that ill treatment worth it. Another common phrase that a narcissist will use when they're hoovering you is something like, my mom said that we were really great together and she's really sad that you've decided to leave. She wishes you'd come back. Or, my friend doesn't understand why you want to leave. I mean, he said that our arguments just all sounded pretty normal. Or, my sister feels so bad about how sad I've been without you. She really wishes you'd come back. Just some kind of form of triangulation. And many times these things that narcissists tell you that other people are saying are just made up. Like, these things aren't even something that anybody has ever said. They're just trying to bring a third party into this dynamic to make you feel like everybody's talking about you and everybody's wondering, why did you leave this wonderful person? Or why would you leave this wonderful relationship? Your ex-partner is so sad without you. How could you do this? Or you guys were so great together. How could you throw it away? When a narcissist brings in a third party, whether in real life or in their imagination, it can be that much harder for you to stick to your own convictions. When you feel like you're outnumbered, it's that much easier to start questioning your own sanity or your own perception. If you are trying to run away from something that seems like a nightmare, but then other people come into the picture and start saying, where are you going? What's wrong? Everything was so great. It can make it hard for you to stick to your own version of reality. It can make you start questioning yourself. And that's why narcissists do this. Remember, anytime a narcissist said, so-and-so told me this, or so-and-so said this, or even if they have somebody reach out to you, that does not make your perception any less valid. It does not make your experience any different. No matter who these third parties are that narcissists bring into the picture, they do not know what you have been through. They do not understand what this person has done to you, how they've treated you, or what your experience has been. Remember, you're the only one that experienced the abuse that you did, and your memory is real. Another phrase that a narcissist can use is something like, I thought you were different, or I thought you cared about me, or I knew that you were gonna leave me someday, or I knew that you never really cared about me. These are all just different variations of basically saying, well, you're leaving me now and I knew you always would. And it really plays into this conditioning that they've possibly put you through that keeps you on this hamster wheel of trying to prove things to them that you can't prove. It's really common for a narcissist during the relationship to say things like this, to keep you trying to make them happy, or trying to prove yourself to them, trying to prove that you're trying, or trying to prove that you care. And once you try to leave the relationship, they can really double down on this. And it can be really hard to resist the urge to try to prove yourself or defend yourself. I mean, if you've spent years of your life desperately trying to show this person how much you care or how much they mean to you, only to be met with constant accusations that you don't really care about them, or maybe you're cheating on them, or you never really loved them, this can be extremely triggering, especially when you're trying to leave and the reason you're leaving is that you have been abused, and this is something that the narcissist refuses to validate or admit to. When they go right back into this, well, you don't even care about me, it can be really hard to resist the urge to continue in this old pattern of trying to prove them wrong. Remember that narcissists that are manipulating you this way are doing it on purpose. They know that you care. They know that you're trying your best. They don't care about any of that. They care about making you continue to try to prove yourself. They don't really care if you really care or not. They don't really care if you really love them or not. They just love to see you running yourself ragged, trying to show them how important they are to you. And if they really do believe that you never cared about them or never loved them when you actually did, that's not a problem that you can solve. And that's not something that you can prove to them if you haven't already. And here's a tactic that I experienced firsthand, and I call it, please, please, please give me another chance for you to stop being so terrible. This one's a little more complicated, but basically, I ended a relationship that I couldn't take anymore, where I was being abused, and then I was absolutely bombarded with all kinds of messages of basically turning the thing around, making it sound like they were the one that dumped me, and that they dumped me because I didn't clean the toilet enough, because the floor was dirty, because my dog pooped on the floor, because I drank their soda without asking, because the laundry room was cluttered. And if I would just get my act together, then maybe they could give me another chance. I was getting voicemails and text messages and emails and having letters sent to family members, and they basically all had the same theme, listing every single thing that this person could think of that I was doing wrong and begging me to work with them, begging me to give them another chance so that I could stop doing all these horrible things. And I think this is a tactic meant to disorient somebody that's already reeling from an abusive relationship, from trying to recover from a trauma bond. It's reframing everything. In reality, I was in an abusive relationship. I tried to make it work. Everything that went wrong was always my fault, and all of the rage was always blamed on really silly things that never made any sense. Like, you're gonna yell at me for 3 hours because the toilet's dirty, but the toilet's not even dirty though. And then I finally ended this relationship. I kicked this person out, and now this person is begging me to stop doing all the things that made them have to leave. This is a really great example of why it can be best to not read messages that a narcissist is sending you, just to cut off contact completely, because when you're already trying to recover from a traumatic relationship, this can be extremely confusing, and you can actually be talked into starting to see things in a very warped and unrealistic way. And in this same vein, another phrase I heard was, I don't want to lose you because of, and then list all of these really trivial little problems that we really didn't even have. Putting the blame back on me. I don't want to lose you because you let the dishes pile up at the sink. If you could please just do the dishes more often, then we could get back together. You're breaking my heart because You can't keep up with the dishes, and if only you could, then we wouldn't have all these problems. Somebody that actually cares about the relationship and doesn't want to lose you is going to be willing to acknowledge that they have been abusive, or at least difficult, or at least acknowledge that they have caused some of the problems when they have been abusive to you. Another phrase that a narcissist might use is something like, "Oh, so you think this is all my fault? You're not willing to take any responsibility? You're gonna blame me for everything? What about all the things you did wrong?" I have an analogy I use in another video, and I can't remember which video it is. I think I've shared it more than once, but it's my house analogy. I'll give a really quick version of it right now. Imagine that you're building a home with somebody, and this is your dream home, and you're really excited about it, and you're building this home from the ground up. And as you go along with this, you make a few mistakes. You put the doorknobs on backwards, or the towel holder backwards. Maybe you paint a couple of the rooms the wrong color, or you get a few drops of paint on the carpet, or maybe you put the hot and cold on the sinks backwards so that the hot's cold and the cold's hot. Or maybe the baseboards are too high, or you cut them the wrong way. Okay, you get the picture. As you're building, you've made these types of mistakes. We all make mistakes, and these are the types of mistakes we might make, right? But if we're building a home with a narcissist, the narcissist is gonna make mistakes like they're gonna pour concrete down the plumbing. They're gonna pour water down the drywall until black mold pops up. They're going to take a sledgehammer to the foundation. They're going to pour buckets of termites into the crawl space. And then when it gets to the point where you can't live in this house anymore because they have absolutely destroyed it, it's condemned. Maybe it's not even legal to go back into the house. And when you say to the narcissist, "How could you do that? How could you destroy this home we built together?" They'll say something like, "Me? You're the one that put the doorknobs on backwards and measured the baseboards the wrong way and painted the walls the wrong color. Oh, you're gonna blame this all on me? Aren't you going to admit to the things that you did wrong? Aren't you gonna take accountability?" I hope that this analogy can help you see how ridiculous this is when it's in the context of an abusive relationship. Abuse destroys relationships. It is not a relationship problem, and it's not just little faults that people have. Abusing someone is not making mistakes. Abusing someone destroys the relationship. And when abuse destroys a relationship, there's nothing that the abuse victim can do to work on that or fix it. There's no amount of responsibility that an abuse victim can take for their own mistakes and flaws that's going to make up for being abused. So yes, for an abuse victim, I think it is perfectly reasonable to blame it all on the abuser, because anything you did really didn't have anything to do with the reasons that the relationship ended. Another phrase you might hear is something like, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" Maybe you haven't heard from the narcissist in 6 months or 2 years, and all of a sudden out of the blue, you get a text or a phone call. "Hey, I'm in town. You want to hang out?" And I think this is really funny because a lot of narcissists do this after you've had this tumultuous relationship and this nightmare of a breakup. And it doesn't matter how bad things got or the kind of arguments you got into or how ugly it was or all the drama. All of a sudden one day it's like none of it ever happened and they just text you something like this. This is really manipulative. And again, this comes from a place of wanting to regain control of you. Narcissists will just pop in at some random time and act like everything's fine. And this is just an attempt to try to reframe things and disorient and confuse you. And a lot of people will really fall for this. I mean, if somebody that you had a really ugly breakup with suddenly texts you, "Hey, how you doing? I just wanted to check on you and wondering what you're doing tonight. I mean, maybe we can hang out this weekend." You can actually start wondering, like, I thought that our last interaction was really, really nasty. Maybe I made too big of a deal out of it in my mind. I mean, maybe it wasn't really that bad, because if it was, they wouldn't be talking to me this way, right? Lots of narcissists do this, and trust me, it was that bad. It was ugly. It was just as contentious as you remember it, and the narcissist is just trying to whitewash things in order to try to put things back the way they were. And the last phrase that you might hear from a hoovering narcissist is something like, "Hey, I left my face wash at your house. Can I come and get it? Narcissists, and actually lots of different types of people, will leave things at your house so that they will have an excuse to come back and see you. Now, I mean, if this is just an annoying person, okay, whatever, right? But if this is an abusive narcissist and they've suddenly got something they have to pick up at your house that they need, I recommend maybe mailing it to them or giving it to a third party or any other way. I mean, even taking it to your lawyer if there's lawyers involved. Don't let this be an excuse to make contact with somebody that you're much better off cutting contact off with. I promise you that if they left things at your house, it was probably just a way for them to leave the door open so that they would have a really good excuse to make contact with you again, to re-engage and to try to pull you back into this hellish relationship that you're trying to escape from. And in closing, I want to say one more time, like I said in the beginning, a narcissist that is hoovering you does not miss you. They have not learned their lesson. They do not care about the hurt that they've caused you. They don't love you. They don't miss the relationship. They are trying to regain control. They are trying to get their property back, what they feel is their property, their right. They are angry that you have tried to get away from them. They are angry that you have taken yourself out of their life because for whatever it was they got out of the relationship, they feel like you've stolen that from them. And that's why they're willing to say or do anything or to manipulate you in any way they know how to get you back under control. Don't fall for it. If you're looking for a way to support my channel and you've been considering professional therapy, BetterHelp is offering 10% off of your first month of service if you sign up using the link below in my description. And if you sign up using the link below in my description, I'll get a one-time commission, so that'll help me out and it'll help you out as well if that's something that you've been considering. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.